So these three pals, they buddies. Uh, they they've been planning this duck hunting venture for some time now, and the three guys are named Frank, Joe, and Ed. Say, Frank, Joe, and Ed. They all work at the same place, you know, in some factory that makes auto parts, you know, and. You know, they live in Michigan, you know, they're somewhere outside of Detroit and all that. And so they want to go to a nearby pond and go duck hunting. This is in early October, perfect time for it. But it does get a little cold, and they got to sit down there behind the duck blind and wait until the flock of ducks fly in, land on the water. So they're just sitting there. And you can get goddamn cold, and they all know it because they've done this several times before in their lives. Ed's worried about freezing to death, and he mentions this to his wife Lori, and Lori goes out and buys him a new pair of long johns. And he's quite pleased with this and thanks his wife and so on, and he just leaves them in the package. He doesn't think much about it. But little does he know that these long johns don't have an opening down there. They're just, you know, like tights. He doesn't pay any attention. When he gets his clothes on, you know, he puts on his boxer shorts, and then he slips on his socks, and then he slips up his long johns, you know, so the socks aren't messed up and all that. And, you know, he throws on a t-shirt and a flannel shirt and a sweater, and tightens up his belt, and he's all set. So he drives out there to meet his two buddies. And, you know, they of course, you know, they drag along a case of beer. And so they're sitting out in this rowboat. And the one fellow's got his dog with him that's going to retrieve these ducks if they get lucky enough. And they're talking and bullshit and low voices, you know, so they don't ward off the ducks if they're tall. And because those damn ducks out there, they can, you know, they have pretty good hearing, and better than we do. And well, eventually, as you might expect, after 3 or 4 beers, this guy's got to take a piss. And so he steps out of the boat, and he's got these, you know, these gator boots on, and he slogs up to the through the marsh up to the shoreline, and walks into the trees. And he, you know, by this time the pressure's on, his bladder's full, pressure's on, and he's just about to burst, you know. And he unzips his pants, and he starts, you know, digging to find the opening, which there isn't any. And pretty soon he's squirming, you know, oh God, you know, and he's just desperate. And by the time he realizes he has to push the thing all the way down and pull his dick out and take his piss, it's too late. He's peed on himself. So he whips his pants down the rest of the way and completes his piss. And then he, you know, he buttons himself up and all that, and then he looks down. Oh God, you know, his pants are all wet down there. And when he comes back to the boat, the two others, Joe and Frank, they glance at him, and they notice his big, watermark, for all they know, on his pants. And they said, Ed, what happened? How come you got your pants wet? And he said, Oh, I just spilled my beer. So, I guess the moral of the story is that we all tell these stupid little lies sometimes to protect our uh, our pride, mainly, I suppose. But it's no great discovery to say that, or at least point out that most of us, if not all of us, are liars. I know I am on occasion, but some people, as we know all too well, lie so extensively. Every single utterance they make, practically, is a falsehood, is a contrivance. It's certainly not the truth. And people who lie incessantly like that, pathological liars, are well. What can you say about them? I mean, they can say anything. I mean, what are you going to believe? You know, if you meet somebody like that, say you're on a trip overseas, and you're staying for 2 weeks at a posh resort area, say in the Bahamas, and you know, a lot of Americans go there for vacations and so on, the ones who can afford it. And you know, you and your wife meet up with this couple, and unbeknown to you, both of them are pathological liars, and they just thrill in telling all these stupid stories to other people they encounter, because that's all they have, you know. If they start talking about what actually they did do in the earlier years of their adult lives, their interlocutors would probably be appalled, because most of it would involve criminal activity, for example. And so they don't want to obviously divulge themselves as con artists, or you know, grifters. So they tell everybody they meet a plausible storyline. They stick to it, and it sounds reasonable. But you know, every now and then, people like that will slip up, forget their storyline, so to speak, and forget their script, because they're not sufficiently well practiced at it, and they basically make a fool out of themselves for telling lies. You know, and then you wonder, well, what's the motivation behind telling all these lies? Well, obviously, telling lies, there are various motivations. The basic one is for self-protection. If you've done something wrong, you tell a lie to try to cover it up, to avoid being punished. Little kids do this all the time. But, you know, the older we get, the wiser we become, and eventually we realize that telling these lies to protect us will only incriminate us further. And so why do it? The simplest thing you can do is to tell the truth. You don't have anything to remember except recollections, which, you know, for most people, just they're right there, and all you have to do is say what you remember. If you say what you remember, as the police well know, you'll stick to your script from their point of view. But if you try to recall something